guys, this is Miss Miller. This is the second part of your Photoshop tutorial related to the Scribble image that you started. So hopefully you've gotten to this point. I think this is a pretty cool technique, but we're going to add some additions to it and try to make the image a bit more unified. One thing you might want to play around, well, the first thing you should do is flatten the image. So if you notice over here, you still have your layers intact. So you can still edit this picture as long as you have these layers. So what a lot of photographers will do is they'll save a version of both. So they'll save a version with their layers. So I've already saved this. So again, always go to Save As. And you could put, Scribble, layer, so that's the one with layers, and then save it. Or and then keep that, and then to work with this more and work with this version, but make it a little bit easier so you don't have all these layers. And also, the more layers you have, the bigger the file becomes, and sometimes it can slow down your computer if you have too many layers. But to flatten an image, go to Layer, Flatten Image. And so now all those adjustments and additions I made have been flattened, just like taking all those little clear sheets of acetate that had each changed and just compressing them into one surface. Again, if you freak out after flattening it, you can always go to Edit, Step Backwards. You can always go to Edit, Step Forwards again to redo something. And then, I would save this as flat. I would go to File, Save As, and then I would, scribble flat. So I have two versions. I have the one with the layers, and then I have the flattened version. And that way you could go back and work on the one with the layers some more, and you can create different versions based on this photographic image that you used originally. Okay. Alright, so once you flatten your image, this is the finished product of mine. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a filter, we're going to bring in some additional elements and play around with the opacity of those, and also the color balance to create a more, just to add more and build on to the image a little bit more and make it more unified. So I'm going to close this image right now, and you want to have your Scribble as is, because right now, it's a cool technique, but there is a lot of negative space. And I was looking around at what some of y'all were doing, and I think we could actually make a pretty cool surreal image if we just push this a little further. So the first thing I did was I wanted to play around with some of the filters. I really like and enjoy the art filters that make it look like different art mediums, like watercolor or fresco painting. So click on the filter gallery, and it has all these different filters, and then there are even more down here that you can explore. The thumbnail is here, so it's showing you the change and how it's going to look. Right now in the thumbnail it's full size. If you want to scale down your image so you can see the image more, just click on this little minus. It might be a little too small. And then again, you can just kind of explore. See, I don't like that, because that blurs the image too much and makes it you lose a lot of detail. So find one that you like. Again, try to use one where it still kind of keeps remnants of it being a photographic image. That's why I liked the fresco one a lot, because it did that, and it also gave more, more of a texture to the background. But I think, some of these could be fun to play around with. So then you can also play around with the brush size and, with the filter itself too. So there's a lot you can do in terms of manipulating this. Here, let me start over. So filter gallery. Well, that's the original filter I added. So that's something else too. When you go to the filter, here at the very top where it says filter gallery, it's going to apply whatever filter I used last. If you want to actually see the filter gallery, click on that and it should bring up that text or that window, that context menu. Oops, I did it too much. Hit edit. There. So that's how I want it. Alright, and again, you might want to get in the habit of saving your work as you go. And, you know, just so if the computer freezes up, which ours have a tendency to do, you won't lose your work. Okay, so the next step, after I added the filter, I'm going to bring in that tree. So I'm going to open up my picture. So one of the things that you do want to do if you're using two images and you're taking an element from one image and adding it to another image, which you can do, is it's nice to have them at the same resolution. So let me go back to this. So just to double check, you can always go to image size, and you know I have my resolution at 150. My document size is 8 by 8 in inches. So I'm just checking it, I'm not changing it. And then I can click on the other image and check that. So go to image size. So you can see here, this one's actually 300. So I'm going to switch that to 150, and I'm going to change the size so it will fit when I actually drag it over into my manipulated image. Hit OK. Again, you know, this is just the percentage of viewing. It's really not this size. You can always go to View, Fit on Screen to see it normal. So, selecting the tree. You know, there are different ways you can do that. You can play with, you know, your quick selection tool, the magic wand tool. The lasso tool is sort of a kind of freehand tool where you just kind of draw around. You have to be coordinated, and you can make a selection that way. Again, to deselect something, I just go to Select, Deselect. The magnetic lasso, which is located or hidden under the lasso, is kind of a cool tool. It kind of creates these, you just kind of click and these dots sort of anchor around whatever it is you're trying to select. And then again, I'm not going to do the whole tree, I'm just trying to demo how this works. And then when you get to when you connect them, you know, it creates the selection. And again, selection tools are tricky, and you just have to kind of practice and play around with them. Well, there's more to it than that, but I'm just trying to give you the basics for now. Another thing that I like to do that in terms of selection is do things in something called quick mask mode. So if you go down to the bottom of your toolbox, there's a little square with a circle. Click on it. It's almost like, and see it says Edit in Quick Mask Mode. It's almost like you're pressing a button. Select your brush tool, and then, okay, and then it will paint in this sort of red color. And so what I'm doing basically is anything that is red that I'm covering is going to be masked. It's almost like I'm covering it with masking tape, and if I were to paint over it again, like with something, it would protect that part of the selection from being manipulated. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to pause it and finish it up a little bit more. So I've, selected a little bit more. What's nice too is that you can keep changing the brush size. So if there are like smaller areas that you want to select, you can do that as well. Again, this isn't the most precise way of selecting something, but since we're doing something that looks more like a drawing and it doesn't have to be seamless, like we're matching two photographs together, the edges aren't as important. And anyway, that's enough. And so when you're done with your selection, refining it, get that. You click the button again. It's a little square with a circle in it. And voila, you see that it's created a selection. Notice though that there's a line, a broken line around the border of the picture. So what that indicates when you have an object selected and you have that line around the border, it means that everything is selected. So all this negative space is actually what's selected and not the object you're trying to select. Okay? So like if I were to make a change, like if I were to go to image adjustments and play with the color, it would change everything but what I selected. That's why it's called quick mask, because it's masking and protecting that part of the image. However, we actually want to select the tree. So to do that, you simply go to select inverse, and so now the tree is the only thing that's selected. So again, if I were to go to image adjustments, I'll do color balance this time, and move, see now it's only changing the tree. So that's a good trick to know. Select inverse. But anyway, I'm not changing the color yet. So do the same thing, the trick I showed you before. Once you have your selection, go to Layer, New, via Copy. So go over here to your layer palette, hide the background layer, and then now you have your tree. Go ahead and show both photos or both images simultaneously. Go to Window, Arrange, Float All in Windows, so you can see both pictures simultaneously. And then grab your Move tool. I know it's hard to see, but the Move tool is at the very top of the toolbox. It's shaped like a triangle. It's like an arrow or pointer with a plus by it. And then all you have to do is simply, again, just sort of click and drag the image and release it into your picture. You can go ahead and get rid of this picture. So I'm just going to close it without saving. Again, if you want to save it with the layer, you could, in case you mess up. Oops. I'm going to say no. So now I'm just working with this image. And again, notice how in your layer palette, it creates a separate layer. And so I can move that separately. You can also do Edit, Transform, and Scale the image if you want. If you want to make it a little bigger, a little bit smaller, depending on what it is you're doing. I'll make mine a little bit smaller. Always hit the Enter key after you do the Transform command. You could also do some other things. You could go to Edit, Transform, and warp it as well if you want to. You don't have to. I might warp mine just a little bit. Alright. Hit Enter. Alright. You can also use your eraser tool. See how I have a lot of white space? I can use the eraser tool. Again, depending on what it is I'm trying to erase. Change the size. Oops. And again, make sure you're in that layer of the tree, otherwise it will erase the foundation of your image. So, again, you can clean this up. I'm using a hardness of 0 so that the edges are soft, and it helps sort of blend the picture in a little bit more. So I'm going to take some time to do that. And again, this makes the tree seem a little bit more natural and like it's actually part of the image and not like I just cut and paste it. So I'm going to work on this a little bit more, and I'm going to pause it and come back. Okay, I might need to do a little bit more, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. So one thing you might want to play around with is your blending mode. This was where it says normal, and this kind of creates some cool overlays between the background and the layer of the tree. That's linear dodge. That's what we used in making your background. You just do overlay. So you could play around with the blending mode. I'm going to put it back to normal. Or you can also play around with the opacity. I think this is really cool. So when you start to build layers, you can actually come over here to opacity and lower the opacity of the image so that that part of the image is showing through. And again, it blends it more and it makes it more unified. So I can see the face, her face, again. So those are two things you might want to experiment with. And then, again, while you still have this layer, you might want to just do some cool things. You might want to play around with making it a different color. You could go to image adjustments and, again, play around with the color, like changing it. Hue and saturation. This will actually mix an entirely new color, which is kind of cool. The saturation increases the brightness or makes it more dull. And then you can also control the lightness and darkness of the color. Another one you can play around with is, color balance, which you just kind of move these sliders. Like if you want the image to have a little bit more blue or be more bluish green, you can mix colors that way. So practice doing both. You've got time. Try doing both. Actually, I kind of like how that turned out. I'm going to keep that. Hit OK. Again, if you don't like something, you can always hit edit, step backwards. But I did like that, so I'm going to keep it. And again, you can always get rid of this layer. Like you just realize that you've messed up the tree too much or you didn't select it right. You can just, delete it, highlight it and delete it on your keyboard, or you can, drag it to this little trash can at the bottom and redo it. And then again, once you, change, like I changed the color balance, I could do other adjustments. I could go to image adjustments and, play around with the hue and saturation. Like I could make it a little bit brighter and not change the color. Make it a little bit darker. And you can probably play with any of these adjustments, image adjustments, and, like the brightness and contrast. So, explore and have fun, but also try to you know, build an image that is, you know, unified and you know, looks good. um, so that's all I've done, and so what I'd like you to do is just experiment trying to finish off your image. If you want to bring other elements in, you just do exactly what I've done, and you'll keep building these different layers. But I think this is kind of a pretty cool image. I liked how it turned out. And again, I can save it. I can, you know, file, save as, and save a layered version of it. I could, you know, save at, I could flatten it when I think I have it the way I want. And then save that version. So I can create these different versions of this image and keep changing them around. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial. And when you are finished, I know yesterday I told you not to print it. I said print it, and then I, in class, told you not to print it. I would like to see some of these, and I think some of these will probably be worth printing. All right, thanks for your attention, and I can't wait to see what you do. Bye.